Hello, everybody, and welcome into the pilot episode of the Hockey Writers Roundtable here. I was going to say at the Hockey Writers, but that's in the title. So the Hockey Writers Roundtable is the first episode. We're going to try this out. And I know everyone's seen these roundtable articles around the internet and at the Hockey Writers. And our first one's going to focus on the Minnesota Wild. I've got two writers from the Minnesota Wild writing team here, Tyson, McKay, and Mariah Stark. Welcome to the first episode of the Hockey Writers Roundtable. We're going to try to do this all season. I'm hoping to do maybe a weekly thing, not with just the Wild, but just overall. We'll kind of touch base, maybe monthly. Who knows? We'll see how it all works out. But this is the first episode. We'll see how this goes. And first of all, Tyson, how's it going?
It's going pretty good, thanks. It's always a good day when your hopefully future number one goalie gets re-signed, so makes it a little bit better.
For sure. And we'll talk about that right off the bat here. Mariah, how's it going?
Same. I was just like, I woke up, I looked at my Twitter, I'm like, that's good.
All right, well, let's kick it off with that. Filip Gustavsson was re-signed, well, as we're recording, was this morning. 3 years, $3.75 million AAV. Pretty good deal for your starting goaltender. 3 years, he basically just broke out last season after the trade coming over from the Ottawa Senators, and now he's pretty much their number one goalie, and Marc-Andre Fleury is the backup. So we'll start with you, Tyson. What do you think of the deal that came down today? And now they only have a bit 1.6-ish on million left under the cap right now. Still have to re-sign Calen Addison, and that's just with the minimum roster size. So what do you think about the deal and any repercussions that's going to happen after this?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good deal. I know everyone was kind of hoping to avoid arbitration, I think, in this situation. And once Samsonov got his deal done and, Swayman, we're waiting for his final numbers, but I think that kind of put a deadline on it for both sides. So I think to get 3 years is great. It leaves us, a little bit more runway to see what Gustavsson's going to turn out to be. I know you mentioned like last year, he just kind of came out of nowhere. Everyone, was kind of thinking Ottawa got the better end of the Talbot Gustavsson deal, but I mean, it's completely flipped 180 now. As long as he can maintain that kind of, upward momentum, I think he has a real shot at being a productive goalie in the NHL. And to have him for 3 years at 3.75, whenever we know that the cap is finally going to go up a little bit, hopefully, that I think will turn into a great deal in just very shortly.
For sure. And like you said about the cap going up, it's any of these deals that look, I mean, it's pretty good even with the cap the way it is right now. So especially with the goaltenders like Bobrovsky making $10 million, and Gustavsson, well, he outplayed him in the regular season for sure. I mean, Bobrovsky in the playoffs, we all know what he did. But Mariah, what do you think about the deal? I know throughout the whole season you've been ranting, raving about Gustavsson throughout your takeaways articles and all that. So what do you think about the deal?
Well, you know how I felt at the beginning. I was like, what on earth is this? Why did this happen? But no, Gus Bus, I love his nickname, by the way, has really stepped up. And I mean, obviously, I think 3.7 is a good deal, a little bit higher than they were hoping for. But since they signed him for 3 years, it's not as bad because they'll be around. And with Fleury as his backup, he's got another year to learn with him. Gives Wallstedt another year in the AHL to really... As much as I want him to be up here, the more practice he can get, the more comfortable he can get in North America, I guess, would be good for him. And I mean, I just think it's good for all around. And then once Wallstedt comes up, he'll have Gustavsson will be a veteran by then and have someone he can look into. And Fleury obviously will more than likely be ready to retire at that point. So it'll be a nice kind of transition rather than either losing Gustavsson or something happens and you throw Wallstedt in there completely unprepared. And just with Fleury's still a great goalie for his age, but he even said he's like, I want to be a backup now, not have all the weight of the team on his shoulders all the time. So I think, yeah, it's a good deal, and I'm excited to see what he can do. And also it gives him that confidence that the team is behind him and, they rely on him and think he can do this. So that'll give him hopefully a boost as well.
It's good term too. I mean, it's not overly long. It's not short. I like these deals. I've said in the past on other shows that 3-4 year deals are better than these 7-8 ones that are like, they're just too long. These are nice, short, compact. You can get pretty good value out of the 3 years, I think. And like you said, the progression's really nice for where you got Gustavsson's pretty good age right now. And then you got Wallstedt basically will just take over from him over time. So right now it's looking pretty good, the goaltending, when it didn't look very good not that long ago. We wasn't sure where that's going to go. Before Wallstedt was drafted, the goaltending was a little bit
Iffy,
right? So overall, it is a good deal for the Wild all around, and we'll see how it all works out. If Gustavsson can keep it going, I mean, this is only one season. We'll see if he can replicate it in this season for sure. So, all right, well, let's get into our roundtable discussion. You guys don't know all these questions because you guys wrote about it, but we can get into a more of a talking and different medium going through with this. So let's start with the first question. And this is, other than Matt Dumba, I mean, he was probably the biggest loss throughout this offseason because, I mean, he wasn't the same defenseman that he was before. But Mariah, we'll start with you. Other than him, who's the biggest loss this offseason that they may miss this coming season?
I said Ryan Reeves because, I mean, the guy has so much energy. I mean, he was kind of like Dumba. It's that same bigger physical player that has a lot of voice, and just that's what that team needs, especially after, Zator, Parisi, the whole change of the guard, so to speak. Spurgeon's a great captain, and obviously I'm not in the room to see what they say, but I feel like he's not quite as vocal as maybe Dumba, and obviously Foligno. We know he can be very vocal. So I think with Reeves, and I wasn't sure how Reeves was going to fit. When they first signed him, I was upset. He's the guy, like I've been told multiple times, he's the guy you love to hate until he's on your team. And that is like the perfect description for him, because I did not like him. All of a sudden, I'm like, what are the Wild doing? This is not okay. And he just fit into the team seamlessly, and I really enjoyed watching it. He's so energetic, and he just kind of carries the team, and he's smart. Like in the playoffs, he knew he had to back off on hits and things, and I know he's getting older, so maybe that plays a part in it too, but he knew they had to play smart and not necessarily do what Foligno did most of the time. Still a little angry about that, and probably will be for quite a while, but I just really liked him, and they're gonna miss him. And bringing Maroon in obviously is good, but I just think Reeves is a personality it's hard to replace.
Yeah, it was interesting where he went going to Toronto, and it's like
on a 3-year deal.
I think they reacted the same way. What's happening? But I think he's going to be good. I mean, I'll echo that because he was annoying when with the Canucks when he was playing against the Canucks every time in Vegas. So I know what you're saying. If he's on the team, he's good, but if he's not, you're not sure. Tyson, what do you think biggest loss this offseason other than Dumba?
I was definitely I thought about Reeves in that context as well. He definitely brought the energy, the lineup cards and that kind of stuff, the clips behind the scenes. But for me, it was Gustav Nyquist. He was kind of a sneaky pickup at the trade deadline because he was injured at the time, so they got him for basically next to nothing. And once he finally got healthy, he had kind of traveled around with the team and stuff beforehand, so he had a good feel on the team. So whenever he stepped in, he had like 10 points in his 9 games through the end of the regular season into the playoffs. And I know it's unrealistic to think that he could keep that up over an entire season's pace. I'm sure it was just some of his, eagerness to get back and be playing with his new team and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I would have liked to be able to see what he could do, on some different lineups with some different matchups. I know Boldy and Johansson have a great chemistry, but I would have liked to see a little bit of Boldy and Nyquist. I think they might have paired up fairly well. But it hurts even more. Kind of, he went to Nashville. He's in that same division, and the deal is fairly good as well, right? Like he's not making big money, but I mean, realistically, the only reason they couldn't keep him was because of the issues they have with the buyouts. So it makes it sting a little bit more, knowing that you lose more of these players because of that stuff. But for me, yeah, that it had to be Nyquist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was a sneaky pickup there. I mean, he was injured most of the season. Wasn't sure if he was even going to play, even with the Wild, but ended up getting in there and producing quite a bit. So we'll see what he does in Nashville. And yeah, and it is in the same division, like you said. So it may come back to bite him, but we'll see. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, let's go to our next question here. And overall, the Wild haven't really been that busy this offseason. They didn't add much. Maroon is probably the biggest addition. They've been kind of doing their in-house cleanup, basically doing that with their own guys. But are you happy with it? We'll start with you. We'll keep it going with you, Tyson. Are you happy with the Wild playing it smart maybe and being quiet this offseason rather than getting into the free agency? I mean, maybe they didn't have enough money to do anything, but they could have done some trades or stuff like that. But up to this point, are you happy with it?
Yeah. Like I said, I don't know if happy is the correct word. I would always like, just as a fan, you always sometimes like whenever, you see your team kind of getting active and making some moves and stuff like that. But I'm content with the direction that they're going. I know this year and probably next year are going to be, a little bit quieter. There's probably not going to be too much rumbling just because the buyouts are going to be basically all that we talk about for the next 2 years. Like they're just the negative umbrella that covers the Minnesota Wild for the next 2 years, as if they haven't for the last couple of years. But Bill Guerin has obviously got a direction and a plan, and so far he hasn't given any reason to doubt what he's done. So I'm fairly happy with where they're going, and I think that given a couple more years time, all these deals and stuff that he hasn't made in kind of a need, or sometimes you feel the need to make a deal just to make a deal, and he didn't fall into that trap yet. So hopefully that'll give them a little bit more room whenever it comes time to really make that push for the Cup.
Yeah, those buyouts are really they're really annoying when you have to. You're basically, it's that dead cap. It just messes up everything, and that's what's been happening with the Wild for the last. Yeah, like you said, these next 2 years they're going to keep talking about it. So they're going to be limited with their moves, unfortunately. Mariah, what do you think? Are you happy with having a smart offseason, not doing much, and basically just adding was just Maroon, right? In major moves, maybe.
When I wrote this question, I was like, okay, let's just poke it and see what happens. It's like the Wild have no money, so I'm like, I don't know what but I mean, they didn't have a lot of choice in their money situation, obviously. Some, like I kind of put in my answer on the article, I was kind of like, some wouldn't care and they just sell half the team for somebody too. Yep. And I'm glad Guerin he's smart and he knows, he planned ahead for this. When he got the job, he knew what he was in for. He's like, we'll figure this out and we just got to ride it out. And thankfully he doesn't try to go too far and waste the team away, I guess, but and he still had a surprise Maroon. I did not, that blindsided me. I had no idea that was coming. And I was just like, oh, Guerin does have some moves. Like, okay. And I mean, I'm okay with it because as much as it's kind of boring, so to speak, things like that happen and make it more exciting because you don't know what to expect. Like you're like, oh, it's probably not going to be anything, and then boom, player shows up. So it is what it is, and I mean, I guess next offseason may be the same. So
yeah, well, there may be some moves here. I mean, Kalen Addison, I don't know. I mean, there's been talk that he could be moved.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, they could trade him, I guess. I don't know what they get back from him. He still has some potential in the NHL. He's not old. He's in that mid, maybe getting to the point where you're like, well, you want him to be doing something already. And he hasn't too much yet, but I still think he has quite a bit of potential in the NHL to be a pretty good defenseman. So we'll see what happens with that. All right, back to you, Tyson. We're going back a bit here, talking about the draft, but the 2023 draft, the Minnesota Wild had a first-round pick. Maybe went off the board a bit, getting Charlie Stramel, but I really like the pick. I've said that on Prospect Corner. I think he's a really good pick. Maybe not. I didn't maybe think he could be in the first round, but I thought that someone may take him because he's a really good two-way player. And he's going to be one of those guys that you're going to need in the playoffs. So what do you think about the Wild's draft picks? I mean, they had a first rounder, they had 2 seconds, and then jumped right to the 5th round after that. But what do you think about their picks in this 2023 draft?
I was optimistic at first. Sorry, I was pessimistic at first. I wasn't. It was complete opposite. I was a little bit concerned with the Charlie Stramel pick. I wasn't super hyped about him. I think that they probably could have got him with their first and the second. I don't think they necessarily had to jump, but the fact that they got Riley Heidt that late in the second round, that really helped me. That kind of eased it off a little bit, because I think they actually probably could have taken Height in the first round, and I would have been just as happy. But I think, whenever you listen and read about Guerin's thoughts and Judd Brackett's thoughts on it, they basically, I mean, the Wild have such a deep prospect pool at this point, right? They knew they needed a center, and they know they need some big bodies. Like you said, they need some guys that are built for the playoffs. And I think their first 2 picks show that exactly, right? They took 2 big two-way centers. Stramel definitely has some potential there. I think everyone's just kind of hoping he had a down year last year, and he's gonna come back and look like an absolute steal, which the potential is always there. Mm-hmm. He definitely was much higher at the beginning of last season than he ended up, but I know I'm watching the World Junior the prospect showcase that's going on right now, and he looked good in his first game, so I'm hoping that he kind of stands pat and keeps on that upward trajectory of looking like a steal. But overall, fairly happy. I think Riley Heidt has some great potential there. Their later picks are a little bit unknown to me. I don't go that deep, but they've had some great success recently in the later rounds. They've picked up a few guys that are as far as they're making the AHL jump this year. So hopefully they can find one or two gems in those later rounds with their picks.
Well, Judd Brackett's really good at finding those guys. I know that from the Canucks here, because he used to be the director of amateur scouting in Vancouver. So got some good later round picks over here. Jack Rathbone being one, I believe. Adam Gaudette. I mean, he was a pretty good NHLer for a bit there. So I mean, he's had some success and he's looking like he's having the same thing in Minnesota. So Riley Heidt, I was very surprised for him to drop to that second round. I thought he was a first round pick for sure, but ended up falling, and that's going to be a steal for sure. Mariah, what do you think about the draft? What they picked? I know you had some comments about Charlie Stramel, but what do you think about it?
So the draft, I'll be honest, is not one of my strong points. I'll research and it'll go over my head, because I'm just like, there's so many players, and Guerin is really good at keeping things secret. You have no idea. I mean, you think you have an idea, and then it's just that way. And Matt, I asked you as soon as they picked him, I'm like, I need to know about this guy, other than the fact that he plays college hockey, because I love college hockey players. I'm big proponent of that. I was excited about that, and especially being he's University of Wisconsin, so he's literally like 6 hours that way from me. So I thought that was pretty cool. But I was happy about it the more I researched him, and I mean, it's a little bit different than I was expecting, obviously, but like Tyson said, the big body, center position, everybody knows by now, if you even hear the Wild, center position is something that everybody thinks they need to get better at, which is true. So I mean, I'm okay with it, and obviously he had kind of a down year, but I don't know how good the Badgers were this last year either. I thought I read somewhere they kind of all struggled, the whole team, the team as a whole. And ever since, I'm going to go a little offbeat here, but ever since the WCHA, for those of you that follow college hockey at all or had, ever since that kind of blew up and the Gophers and Wisconsin went to the Big Ten and everybody else went this way, I haven't seen much of the Badgers, and I don't know how good they are. They used to be extremely good. So hopefully that will happen again and he can really show what he can do. And I'm excited for the future. I have a little bit of doubt, but I'm kind of trying to hide that and just be like, we're optimistic here. We're going for this.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said before, I really like Stremel. I thought he could be a first round pick. I thought maybe a team would reach because of his pedigree of being that type of guy you need in the playoffs to succeed. And that's looks like that's what happened. So I think he has a bit more offense to his game too. So it'll end up, we'll see. I mean, a lot of people think his ceiling is a third line center. It's not horrible, but I think he does have potential to be a second liner. I don't think he's going to be a first line guy, but I think he's got the skill to be that rough and tumble type two-way center that you just need to win. And that I think is what he's going to turn into. So I liked the pick. So we'll see how he kind of turns out. Okay, well, let's move on from the draft and start talking about, what they're missing. And we'll go back to you, Tyson. What are they missing going into this season? I mean, talk about the center position. I don't know if they really addressed that. Obviously, they didn't because they didn't really add anything. Is that what they're missing going into the next season, or do you see something else that they still need to do?
Well, it's always easy to go to that number one center with the Wild. It's been a constant for basically their entirety of existence is the lack of a real first line center that can really make moves. But I think they have some great stopgaps right now with Joel Eriksson-Ek and Ryan Hartman. Between the two of them, the sum of them equals a fantastic number one center. And they kind of use them in that way where Hartman plays great with Kaprizov and Zuccarello, and Eriksson-Ek kind of fills the other voids anywhere that they need them. But for me, they're missing some scoring depth. They got it 2 seasons ago. They had a fantastic year a couple seasons ago, and it was because of that. Everyone was scoring. Everyone was having record years, and it was just a whole team effort. And last season, in my research for this piece, I found that 42% of their points came from 4 players. And so if you're relying on half of your points almost coming from 4 players, you're looking for trouble. And it wasn't that they had a bad year last season. It was just they were very reliant on those 4 players, and if they want to go further, then they need some more scoring from guys like Foligno. He had a down year last year. They need the doers and the Rossis and those kind of guys to step up, take the next step. Duhaime, I'll throw him in there as well. Big fan of Duhaime. Really glad they got him signed again. So I'm hoping to see some more offense out of him this year. If they can get some of those guys rolling, as well as, you know, their top four kind of guys like the Kaprizov, Zuccarello, Boldy, Hartman, Eck, you know, if they can get everyone kind of moving, I think that'll make a huge difference in where they end up next season or this coming season.
Yeah, that 40%, that's a pretty big number for just a few players covering your offense. So you need a bit more for sure. Mariah, what do you think? What are they still missing? Is it that, or do you have something else?
So obviously I knew the first thing we'd both say is the first line center, but I went a little out of the box with mine. And while Gustavsson signing today has been great, I kind of am still nervous where if something happens to him and we have to rely on Fleury since he's going to be 38 this season.
Yeah.
What if something happens to him? Well, yes, we do have Wallstedt and Zane McIntyre, who I'm also a big fan of. I feel like our goaltending, it would be nice to have, this is probably a wish thing that will never happen, but a goalie that's got a little bit more experience that once they could come up, it's like, okay, you've got a savior in there. And obviously that player would probably already be on another NHL team because typically they're not in junior or the AHL if they're ready to go. But I don't know. The goaltending still leaves me a little nervous while I'm excited for Gustavsson. I'm still a little hesitant.
Yeah, well, you need a really good third. And I mean, Wallstedt, like you said, a lot of potential, but you don't really want to rely on him and not rush him either. Goaltending is just such an interesting position. You don't want to rush these guys into the NHL. There's only a few that are able to do it, come in right away at a really young age. And I don't know. I mean, I have a lot of hope for Wallstedt, but you don't want to rush him and screw that up. So we'll see. We'll see when he does play, and hopefully it's not too soon and forced. So. All right, well, let's go from missing to a favorite move of the offseason. Tyson, what is your favorite move this offseason? I mean, a lot of moves have happened. Is it the Gustavsson re-signing that just happened? Is it going to change from your article now? But you are free to change it because of this move thing. But what do you think?
It would definitely be close. I'm a big fan of 3 years on Gus, but I have to go back to Marcus Johansson. You know, he came in right around the same time that Kaprizov got injured, and putting him with Matt Boldy just kind of ignited the two of them. So to be able to get him back for another 2 years and at only a $2 million cap hit, I think is a fantastic playmaker to put on that line with Boldy. The trio of him, Boldy, and Eck were a fantastic second line. They had very consistent point production. So get him back for another 2 years is great. And I think if they can manage to keep him healthy, which I know is one of the main worries with him, is he has a history of some injuries, but he's a 40 to 50 point guy on that line with Boldy, and I think that's exactly what they need. As my point before, is that they need some more guys to pick up some more of their point totals, so it's not quite as heavy on the front guys. And I think Johansson could be a big part of that.
Johansson's been a very underrated player over the time he's played in the NHL. So I mean, I'm not surprised that he kind of fit in there. He's been in Minnesota before they reacquired him, and he was pretty good then too. So yeah, it's no surprise, I think, that he's kind of fit in and being a pretty productive guy. We'll see what he does this season. Mariah, what do you think? Favorite move of the offseason? You can change it because now Gustavsson's re-signed, but what do you got?
I feel like that's too easy.
Too easy.
And normally I was gonna say, okay, so pretend Gus didn't get. It hasn't happened yet. I was gonna say Duhaime because I'm a huge fan of the Dewey 1 and Dewey 2 with Dewar 2, but I say Maroon. I mean, I'm excited to see. I feel like he's just so unpredictable. Like he's coming from a team that's won 2 cups, and he was gonna win his third, I think. I don't know. But I think I'm so excited to see the energy he brings, and I've been reading more up on him and things, and I just think he's such a out there player, and his personality makes me think a lot of Middleton, who I'm a huge fan of as well. I just love that this team has so many. They kind of just meld together with all their different personalities, and they seem like a lot of fun. So, I mean, obviously you have to have some seriousness to win. And I think he knows that. And what I've been reading, he definitely knows when to turn that on and off and when to step up and be that leader that, granted, his first season, he's going to let the other guys do the leading, but I'm excited to see what he brings.
Yeah, Maroon's he has a very big personality, and I think he was the first to be in the final or with 3 different teams or something like that. So it's like he's already got some history, and I won a couple cups. He's got a lot of experience. So if they get to the playoffs and into those points where you need that veteran voice, I think it's gonna be a really big part of that. So we'll see, and hopefully the Wild do make it back to the playoffs, and he can provide that. So. All right, quick fire time. And these are questions you don't know. So we'll start with you, Tyson. First one, and this is just first one come to your head. Not a lot of explanation. These are pretty quick answers. So how many starts for Jesper Wallstedt in the NHL this season? Or does he see any at all?
Up until today, when they re-signed Gus, I probably would have said somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 to 7, but I think they're going to be a little bit tighter on cap. I was expecting more of like a 1-year deal in the 3.3 range. So I think they might have to just hold back a little bit more. I know Wallstedt's coming in at a 925 cap hit. I think if they have to, they might rely a little bit more on Zane McIntyre. He's only at 775. So I think Wallstedt does get a couple games, but I think it's going to be just that, probably in like the 2 to 4 range.
Does he get his first win?
Absolutely.
All right. Mariah, what do you think? How many starts for Wallstedt, and does he get his first win in those?
Ignoring the cap talk, because that was like, oh, maybe I should bring my answer down a little bit. If there's an injury involved, I was gonna say 5. Go a little higher, because as much as I love McIntyre, I want to give him time, but I don't know. I feel like they would. It depends on the time of the season too. I mean,
true, yeah.
If it's closer to playoffs, I mean, Wallstedt, you probably would go with him being the guarantee, but I'm gonna go with 5. That's 5. My answer.
Does he get his first win in those?
Duh.
You'd hope so. You don't want him to lose 5.
He better.
All right, next, and we'll go with you. Stay with you, Mariah. Marco Rossi, Brock Faber. Who gets more NHL games this season?
Why are you doing this to me? Faber, because as much as I love Rossi, Faber, I'm president of the Faber fan club. I've already signed up for it, so I'm going whole hard on Faber.
What do you think, Tyson? Who gets more NHL games between Rossi and Faber?
I'm going to go. That's a really difficult one. I'm going to go Faber as well. I think Faber. I think there's an open spot on defense for him, and just from looking at his play in the playoffs, I don't see how he doesn't spend the whole season in the NHL.
I'll agree with that. And just as a follow-up, since we both said Faber, how many points does he get? Tyson, how many?
Oh, he's not a very offensive defenseman, so I'm gonna say he ends up somewhere in the 20s, around 20. I'm gonna say 21.
21. Mariah, what do you think?
I was gonna say 20, because I'm like, God dang it. He can shoot though. I was surprised with how well he can shoot. So I'm like, I feel like I'm going really low, but that's a little optimistic too.
I really like Faber. I was a proponent of trying to get him into Vancouver, so didn't happen. But I'll say he'll probably hit around 20 as well. I think he has a lot of potential. I think one season he could hit he'll be a 40-point guy at some point, maybe only once, but I think he has that potential. All right, staying with the predictions of points. Mariah, points for Kirill Kaprizov and Matt Boldy.
Oh, I knew you were gonna go there because I was like, Kaprizov, is here for me. Faber is almost like here. So that's how much I like that kid. But oh god, I think barring health issues, Kaprizov. Say this is Kaprizov staying healthy the entire season. I'm gonna go. So I think he's gonna break when he hit 108. So I'm gonna go 115. Because I think he's going to be determined and he's going to want to prove it. It's just that he can stay healthy. Boldy, that's... I don't even remember how many he had last season. That's how bad I have the memory. I'm going to go...
Was 63 last season.
Okay, thank you for that. That helps my prediction. I'm going to go minimum 70. I'm aiming high.
Hey, he can do it. Tyson, what do you think? Kaprizov and Boldy.
Kaprizov, I see him breaking 100 again. He was on pace to do it last year if he didn't get injured. So I think he's going to come back as determined as ever. Yeah, I think he gets. I'll go even higher. I think he gets 120.
I almost did that too.
I think 120. I think he gets close to Nate McKinnon category from last year. Boldy, this is going to be a bold prediction for Boldy. I think he's a point per game player next year. I think he hits 82.
There you go. Yeah, I think he can do it. He looked really good when Kaprizov was injured. He kind of carried the team. So I think he can definitely get there. We'll see if he can do it in the shadow of Kaprizov instead of when he's not there. But yeah, we'll see. I think it's going to be interesting to see where those two guys go. Kaprizov, I think, can definitely hit that 115. If he's healthy, that's a very big caveat there. But hopefully he does stay healthy. He was pretty healthy in his rookie season. So it's not like he's injury prone. I think he just happened to be.
He just got fallen on.
Yeah.
He got a little squashed.
Yeah. So
it's kind of unfair to put that on him.
Yeah. All right. Final quick fire. And this may be a bit early, but just a quick one. Do they they'll probably make the playoffs, but we'll say, do they make the playoffs and how far do they go in the playoffs? The team they have right now, I mean, there's a lot can change, but just as fun thing. So Mariah, what do you think?
Yes. I want to say they go all the way because that's my hope every year.
Yes.
But I think making it past the first round, as hard as it would be to lose in the second, I think once they can break that hump of being stuck in the first round and just tanking, I think fans will have a little bit more optimism and not feel like we're in the Minnesota curse and of all of the sports teams here. So I'm going to go with minimum second round. And yes, they obviously make it.
Tyson, what do you think?
It's as a fan, you get so used to just like they have such a history of first round exits that it almost seems like that's the standard is just a first round exit. But I think just to be a little bit bold with it, I think they match their franchise best. I think they go all the way to the Western Conference Finals.
Nice. Well, like I say, a lot can change, trades, stuff like that. And there's so much, this division is also very different. A lot can change in this division as well. So we'll see. But thanks for coming on the first roundtable discussion. We'll have a few more of these throughout the season if, big things happen, or even if they don't. You can kind of touch base every month. We'll see how this all goes. But thanks, Tyson. Thanks, Mariah, for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. And before we leave, Tyson, where can everyone find you on Twitter? And obviously your stuff on the Hockey Writers.
So if you can find me at Twitter at TysMick15, so TYSMCK15. And that's where you'll find all my Hockey Writers stuff. There should be a boatload coming. So yeah, make sure you stay tuned to that.
That's it. So we'll look forward to that. Mariah, same thing. Where I see, Twitter's on your Zoom there, but
I make it easy. I mean, yeah, that's where a lot of it is. Threads, it's pretty much, I've got Facebook. I don't do a lot on Instagram, but pretty much everything else it's just my name. So, I mean, I changed my Twitter handle to make it easier to find my stuff because I made that in college and it needed to change. So, yeah, that's where everything is.
Nice. All right. Well, make sure you're following the Hockey Writers for all their stuff, all the Minnesota Wild coverage as we go through the offseason into the next season. Mariah will have her takeaways every game as well, and lots of other features coming out, prospects, coverage, preseason stuff. We got a whole bunch of preview stuff coming out, thehockeywriters.com as well. We'll have more roundtables as we go as well too. So thanks for joining us on our first episode of the Hockey Writers Roundtable. Keep following us here and throw any questions you got in the comment section. We'll try to answer them as well. And make sure you come back next time for another episode of the Hockey Writers Roundtable. We'll see you next time.